Right.
You know, we'll have.
Excellent. Well, everyone, I'm so excited to welcome you to this groundbreaking initiative, celebrating the historical and educational connections between historically Black colleges and universities and African institutions. Together, we aim to deepen Pan-African integration within academic departments, leadership, and student communities. This effort seeks to foster a dynamic global network of Pan-African scholars and advocates across the US, Africa, the Caribbean, and the broader diaspora. Through vibrant discussions featuring leaders from African universities and HBCUs, we will explore strategies to champion the African education agenda on a global scale. I would like for us to introduce the dialogic topic and rationale. With my partner here, Aziz, we are building on the momentum of the recent Education for Africa Dialogic Summit. This initiative marks the beginning of a transformative journey. We are laying the foundation for enduring partnerships that support Pan-African education and strengthen connections with the global diaspora community. This panel will highlight the historical ties between Pan-African and HBCUs, creating an avenue for educational institutions to integrate and collaborate. This will support the shared vision of our uniting African and African-American students and scholars in the global academic community, allowing both faculty and students to discuss important issues, exchanges ideas, and develop strategies for long-term cooperation. We will be hosting a series of virtual discussions. The next one will be driven by our youth, and this will lead to our plans to host an in-person summit in Africa. And we have earmarked the time frame around May 26th through the 30th, and we are in the process of raising funds for this project. And during this in-person summit, we have shared outputs and common goals that we want to collaborate all together with shared research, faculty and student exchange programs, joint research projects, co-authored publications and presentations. We hope to capacity build with professional development, such as regular series on topical topics, coordinate and leverage our grant programs, annual summit, and sustainable and thriving communities. We are laying the groundwork for transformative collaboration that will shape the future of Pan-African education, fostering partnerships that champion the African education agenda and strengthen the ties with the diaspora. So we want you to embrace this opportunity to co-create a new theory of value as new proposition to the world, as our partner Fabian Count Anthony has quoted. Thank you for joining us as we work toward a united and anointed future for Pan-African education. I would like to yield to Aziz.
Thank you, Kimberly. It's so nice to have all of you here, and we're so excited to start and kick off this dialogue. I'll just introduce the hosts of this dialogue. We have first our Africa Voices dialogue hosts, Dr. Robin Whitaker from South Africa, Dr. Andrew Wambua from Kenya, and Dr. Timosa Martin, who is in Ghana now, and myself, Professor Abdelaziz Zouri from Morocco. We will give you a very quick introduction to Africa Voices Dialogue. Africa Voices Dialogue is a Pan-African nonprofit organization. It was co-founded by myself, Dr. Robin Whitaker, and Dr. Andrew Wambua 4 years ago. We created a space for Africans where Africa's voices are seen, heard, and loved. Of course, we're focused on promoting education and learning, but you know how education and learning intersects with many, many aspects. So we're not going to list all of them, but Education, of course, today is at the center. We believe that it has potential to transform the world, and we're doing our best to bring all our stakeholders into this space where they can be seen, heard, and loved. Our NIA and intent is built around Ubuntu. I am because you are, driven by collaboration and driven by the 4 C's of Africa Voices Dialogue. We converse, to connect, to collaborate, to commit, and to co-create. So it's less about expertise and more about experience, and all voices matter. And the whole is more important than the sum of its parts, as systems theory or systems thinking says. We seek meaningful learning based on experiential and experienced learning, and we are driven by authentic belonging and active potential for educators, communities across the African continent and beyond. Robin?
Fantastic. Thank you. So welcome everybody, and what a joy it is to be together again. Really wonderful to see people coming in. Just before I give back to you, Kimberly, to ask you to also introduce our Global Impact Industries and Pan-African Council hosts, please, would everybody drop their names and where you are from, and particularly what you are excited about for this dialogue into the chat. We have a very huge conversation to have today, and so we really want to make the optimum use of all the avenues for conversation that we can. And so use the chat box liberally, and particularly just to introduce yourselves into the conversation so that people can find each other in our dialogue and make the connections. We really want people to be able to connect and to make the space feel humanized and humanizing and warm, and a community of care and belonging where we can really work together to advance our continent. So Kimberly, I'm going to hand back to you just to introduce your wonderful colleagues and also some of our discussants. So back to you for the moment.
Right. So to give you a formal introduction of who I am, my name is Kimberly Nelson. I'm originally from Flint, Michigan. You will hear me say I consider myself a Flintstone at heart, but my roots trace back from Haiti by way of Nigeria. My profession, I am an integrative interdisciplinary scholar and a proud alumni of Johnson C. Smith University, and I'm the president of Global Impact Industries. It is a consortium that is collaborating with strategic, valuable local and international partners to deliver impactful projects and programs. Our mission is to evangelize society, mobilize productivity, and transform global political and economic systems to create generational wealth. We pioneer solutions through technology. EHBCU, you will hear a lot about in education, shaping a future-ready workforce and driving excellence. Our esteemed partners, in absence, Fabian Anthony, which represents the Pan-African Council. And then we have Dr. Isaac Sanning, who also is the partner in representing the council. Their organization is a premier global leadership and strategic development organization committed to advancing and uniting Africa and her diaspora through international cooperation in political and economic and social spheres. Now, I'm excited to say you see here a slew of discussants from 4 HBCU universities, and we've got about 11 African universities that partnered with this initial kickoff of our summit. We will get into who they are once we get to the specifics of the introductions, once we start the panel. But I do want you to channel in on this slide to note that we have some awesome academic leaders that will be taking us on this evolving platform today to discuss this overall program. And we all want you to be present and engage as we continue this effort together. I will introduce the HBCU panel once we get to the universities, institutions, and we can go on to the next slide.
Fantastic. Thank you. And so, Andrew, if you'd just like to give us a little bit of an oversight as to this incredible collective of people that at the end of the year and the end of the academic year and the beginning of December, when everybody's tired, and the end of the week on a Friday, have shown up for this incredibly well attended event. So, Andrew, over to you to just walk us through some of what we see from our RSVP.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robin. What a great year to end the year. In this session, more than 200 people registered to participate. And in our list, we have academic leaders, we have researchers, we have people who are drawn from the corporate world, that is business. We have students from high school to college to universities. We have civil societies represented in this forum. We have youth leaders, we have grassroots activists, we have education funders, we have teachers, and many more. We are fostering existing collaborations, and when people are registering, we need to ask several questions just to arouse their thinking and what they expect from this session. And one of the questions was if they are aware of any existing collaborations between African institutions and HBCU. And half of those who registered actually are not aware of any existing collaborations, while the other half indicated that collaborations revolve around student exchange, program support, and others. And I would say that today we are planting a seed of deepening those collaborations. I would say that we are coming home because we have lots of connections of Blacks in the US, in Africa. I would say this is like bringing us home. So we are quite excited on the benefits that could emerge from the closer ties between African tertiary education institutions and HBCU. There were again mixed reactions with key themes emerging, such as intellectual leadership with the key Pan-African thought leaders, such as Du Bois from Fisk University, Kwame Nkrumah, who is a great Pan-Africanist, we all know, and Martin Luther, the guy who coined I Have a Dream. So all those are from HBCU. So we are quite excited. There were mixed reactions. So next page, Robin. Yes. When you look at this forum, we have a vibrant and exciting discussion between leaders of HBCU and also African tertiary institutions. And what we are giving you here today is just a taster because we are laying the foundation. We are planting a seed. So what we are just sharing today is just a taster because it's the first of many events which we shall hold. I understand that Kimberly talked about a possibility of us converging next year. So I understand that by the end of this session should give us more information about that. So we are hoping to deepen insight into the relationships between HBCUs and Pan-Africanism, to consider the historical and educational connections between these institutions, to explore close alliances such as joint publications, joint research, joint conferences, share thoughts on how the African agenda could be more actively championed around the globe, not just the US, not just Africa, but around the globe, because people who are attending these sessions, today's session, actually are drawn from all over the world. We have participants from Europe, from North America, from South America, from Africa, from Asia, from Australia. So we are a global entity. We are a social movement. And then we are looking forward to foster a stronger global network of collaboration between the African diaspora in the US and Africa. Robin?
Wonderful. Timoza, do you want to just share which institutions are in the room with us?
Absolutely, absolutely. I am so excited to be here in this room having this conversation with this group of people. And we have representatives from a number of HBCUs, including Duluth University, Johnson C. Smith, Alabama State, and North Carolina Central University. So we want to create a space where we can have this exchange of ideas, the exchange of thoughts, ideas, and innovations on how we can work together and how we bridge the connections between our HBCU institutions and our African tertiary institutions. And then I will pass it back on over to Robin.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Timosa. So yeah, it's really, really exciting to see the level of excitement and interest, the level of participation, and just as we see these institutions represented geographically, to get a taste of what the possibility is and what the potential is. And we were talking a little bit earlier as we opened up the session and we were waiting to begin about how it is that things actually happen and that it's not a case of external resourcing making things happen. It's about being responsive to the moment and using what's in your hands and connecting the people who care about similar things and just doing it. And so this is a moment for us to do that. And it's extremely exciting as we've been following this thread to see what is emerging in terms of the conversations that are unfolding. So I would like to just spend a little moment talking about the approach that we use in our dialogic work and what we ask from you as our participants. So Africa Voices Dialogue is really committed to the concept of voice, and I think everybody in this consortium of partners is super excited about what happens when you bring real live human beings in humanizing spaces together, when you listen to their voices, when you listen for the opportunities, what might happen. And so we just want to walk through some of the guidelines for dialogic space. It's a little bit unusual. We don't always kind of find ourselves in these kinds of experiences. And so we want to be explicit around what does it mean to be in dialogic space together. So the first thing is that we really ask for each of us, not only the discussants. You'll notice we don't call them presenters, okay, because they're not here to present. They are here to open the conversation and the discussion. Not only the discussants, but everybody that's part of the session, that we be present. So please, we are so interested in your perspective and in your voice because we have.
Good morning. Thank you for calling Tabernacle.
Yeah, good morning. What time is the party?
That voice might need to come through on the chat. So please share as widely as you can on the chat. If things spark for you, if things interest you, put them down. So bring your voice, bring your feelings, bring your thoughts, bring your own lived experiences. There is
Thank you for holding.
To share. We will get to that piece of tech etiquette just now. The second thing is to pay exquisite attention. And that means to really bring your full attention into this space and to listen respectively, attentively, and kindly to others, to be open to learning. And that means if you hear something that's really different from what you expect, or perhaps like not your cup of tea, just embrace that the fact that there are diverse perspectives, celebrate that difference, and use those moments to look for insight. So come with curiosity, not judgment to this space. Then in terms of tech, yes, exactly. Please just wherever possible. It is a big meeting, so if your signal starts to battle, we understand videos may need to go off. But part of being present, it's so beautiful to see faces. So specifically when we go into the breakaway rooms later on, if you can try to keep your video on, if your signal will allow for it. We understand if it doesn't. And then just for the collective to minimize the distraction of unmuted mics. So just keep your mics muted. If you want to speak and we want you to speak, put your hand up. There are lots of us looking out for those hands, and speak your voice into the chat as well. As you will have noticed when you came in, the meeting is being recorded. So it's being recorded so that we can rebroadcast it on both the Education for Africa Dialogic Summit, on our Africa Voices Dialogue website and YouTube channel, and on the Global Impact Industries and Pan-African Council spaces. And so, yeah, just be aware it is being recorded, and please be aware that your implicit consent has been taken, if you like, for that. So again, what we are really hoping for, we've got a particular discussion that we are having, which is about bridging the gap, bridging the Pan-Africanism and the HBCU and African academic spaces. But really beneath all of that, what we are really hoping for is to create this strong experience for participants of care, connection, and a deep and practical sense of what generative dialogue feels like in action. We want each participant and each person to leave this experience feeling that they have been seen, heard, and loved, and that their voice has been welcomed and respected. And that is what we all create together, is this experience of seeing, hearing, and loving each other's voices and respecting each other's voices. And we really hope that through this experience, we're going to support a sense of shared discovery, learning, possibility, and excitement to explore future opportunities together, both for those who participate today and for many more in the future. I just want to give a quick highlight of what generative dialogue is, because it is very rarely experienced. Generative dialogue moves past what we classically experience as dialogue, which is sort of bringing different perspectives and then matching them against each other, but staying quite firmly in our own perspective. Generative dialogue asks us, it invites us to move beyond our own perspective and start paying attention to possibility and to what's present in the system and what's moving through, what's wanting to emerge, and to become responsive to that. And it really is this experience of collective creativity, of presencing, of opening the capacity for collective flow. And it leads to the most exciting and unexpected collaborative and co-creative outcomes. And so we cannot tell you exactly what will come, but we fully believe and know that when we go into a space of generative dialogue, magnificent things start to happen. So just a reminder again, please bring your open mind, your open heart, your open will into every moment of the conversation that we're in, whether you're listening or please bring in your voice within our smaller breakaway spaces or within our open reflection and insight spaces that are happening throughout the dialogue. And a reminder to us all, so this is a quote from Nancy Klein, and it is extraordinarily powerfully true. The quality of your attention is what determines the quality of other people's thinking. And when our thinking becomes of a high quality, then our actions become incredible. So let's create the space together for high quality thinking. The way we're going to run the dialogue, just so that you have a sense of what's coming, is we're going to have two initial sparks, two spaces for sparking of thinking, sparking of ideas, just bringing us into this conversation, opening our awareness of what the HBCU space is, what its relevance to the continent is, what is already happening, what the potential is. We're then going to move into a period of collaborative exploration. So the first sort of two-thirds, the first half of our session will be these initial sparks. In those times, as participants in this discussion, please don't just listen. Listen for what you are hearing come through and put your reflections, put what sparks for you into the chat. At the end of each sparking space, there is also an opportunity for each of you to bring your voice and your wisdom, because the wisdom in the room is phenomenal. We will move into collective exploration, which will be small breakaway rooms. In those rooms, we'll prime them first, but we really want everybody to have an opportunity to share their thoughts and their reflections on what the conversation, what's happening in the conversation. We'll move into a space of reflective synthesis. And then finally, and this will be an ongoing process, into a phase of sense making and integration. And with that, Kimberly, if I could again ask you and whoever else you would like to invite to really prime us around what the context is. So many of us on the continent, many of us, not so many, but many of us don't necessarily have a huge appreciation of the context of the diaspora and Pan-Africanism. So handing over to you in advance of our first spark of our HBCU panel.
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to share a high-level overview of when I think about this flag, this Pan-African flag, pre-colonial Africa. Pan-Africanism began not in Africa, but on the slave ships, where individuals united in their fight for freedom. From the Haitian Revolution to leaders like Kwame Nkrumah and Marcus Garvey, Pan-Africanism evolved as a response to oppression and colonial divisions, such as those solidified during the Berlin Conference in 1888. Today, it continues to grow, with HBCUs reconnecting with African universities and a renewed focus on sovereignty, self-development, and societal management. Once it was a reactionary movement, it is born from shared struggles. Pan-Africanism is now an evolving philosophy shaping the African unity and independence. I'd like to also ask Dr. Isaac Sani
I hail from Nova Scotia, and some of you may know Nova Scotia has, in Canada, has the oldest Black population in Canada. But I would also like to point out two important things. As was pointed out, Pan-Africanism rarely emerges on the ships when rebellions are taking place, where Africans across different ethnicities, nationalities unite in a common cause and a common struggle. Well, Nova Scotia also is the home of the first largest Back to Africa movement, where in 1792, in January, over 1,196 people left to return to Africa, having initially escaped from slavery, rejected British colonial domination, and returned to the continent. And an act of people engaging in the struggle against the oppression, the subordination, exploitation. Intellectually, we also talk about the 19th century and a series of scholars and thinkers who emerge from the African diaspora, who begin to think about and theorize and to talk about how we can achieve Black liberation. And one of the points I always like to point out is what we can consider the father of organized political Pan-Africanism, i.e. someone who said, let's try and bring people together concretely into a political movement. Henry Sylvester Williams, that was his name, who organized the first Pan-African Congress in 1900. And some of you may be familiar with these Pan-African Congresses, the most famous and important being the one in 1945 in Manchester, United Kingdom, which, you had people like Kwame Nkrumah, Kenyatta, and other African luminaries participate and played a central role in African independence. Well, Henry Sylvester Williams organized the first one in 1900. And I always like to point out, he spent a year at my university in the 1890s, right? Hopefully developing those ideas and so forth. So we're in the course of, I think, of this idea of unity. People often said the 21st and probably the 22nd century will be Africa's century. We see Africa rising. We see, not only in terms of what's happening in terms of economic development, but intellectual autonomy, intellectual independence, intellectual self-determination. And I think on that particular point, to echo what Kimberly has said, Professor Nelson, I think these are critical points. And once again, Pan-Africanism is gripping the minds of people. My colleague who works with me in the Black and African Diaspora Studies program here at Dalhousie University does a lot of work on the African continent, working with the United Nations Forum on People of African Descent, and also in Latin America. And these ideas, right, from the 20th century and from beyond are now seen as being increasingly relevant for the contemporary struggles of the 21st century.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sani. Now, as we think about in 1964, Pan-African leaders in their efforts to reverse the damage done by the Berlin Conference, they met and created OAU, now renamed as the African Union. And when we look at this slide, we think about the divided 5 regions. And Kwame Nkrumah, he declared, he quoted, "You are not Africa because you were born in Africa, but that you are African because Africa is born in you." AU, as we move to the next slide, the African Union charged this way forward in reuniting and restoring the continent and declared that all people of African origin or descent living outside of Africa as the African diaspora that constitutes the 6th region of the continent. Now African leaders unanimously began calling on all people of African descent to come back home and participate in building the Africa we want. Now we're shaping our own narrative. We want to aggregate momentum of a movement for the harmony of people and planet in the 21st century. Ready to now introduce our discussants. As we think about the past, the present, and the future, pro-liberation, pro-self-determination, unity, and the future being omni-innovation, omni-pioneering, omni-influential, I am excited to introduce to you our panelists that are speaking with us here today. I want to introduce to you Dr. Damian Clark, Vice President of Technology Services from Alabama State University. We have bios, but we're going to have them introduce themselves in fostering this collaboration and discussion all together. But I also want to introduce Dr. Felicia Stukes from Johnson C. Smith University. She's also your Associate Professor of Computer Science and leading efforts on Pan-Africanism initiatives and broadening participation in computing with historically marginalized citizens and students. Also, Dr. Leslie Clement from Johnson C. Smith University we have here. She's the director of the honors program, Spanish and African Diaspora Seminar. She's also an academic leader embracing how to move the historical aspects of the African diaspora studies with student-centered, heritage-focused education. And we're looking forward to hearing from her today. We also have here Dr. Charles Johnson from North Carolina Central University. He's the Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of History. He's another gentleman that is leading in information science. His role with HBCUs and the diaspora and the way it plays with African history. We're looking forward to hearing from him. And we also have Dr. Siobhan Grady from North Carolina Central University School of Library and Information Sciences. She's the Associate Professor and Program Director of Information Science, big in career development, she's championing the women and minorities in STEM and AI careers as well. We have also here with us, let me see, did I cover everybody here? I think I got everybody here, yep. And then Dr. Isaac Sani, he is representing here with us as well. And he is he's with Pan-African Council, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at Dalhousie University. He's the Associate Professor, Coordinator, Black and African Diaspora Studies. And he's big on, as you heard from him, on global Black liberation struggle. And I would love for him to share even the work that he's doing with reparations all together. So as we, I want to open up this question to all of you, and then we're going to just dive into it. I would like for us to think about how can the historical role of HBCUs in fostering political consciousness and social justice movements be leveraged to strengthen partnerships with African universities and support the vision of Pan-African unity, community, and innovation today. And I'll leave it open for anyone to share from this panel. And should I call on someone first? Or is someone
I was going to ask, excuse me, Charles Johnson, Chair of the Department of History at North Carolina Central University. Is there some way that we can get that question? Is it posted somewhere where we can see all of it?
Yep, I can drop the question right here so that you all can build off of it.
Okay.
While we're doing that, can I just check in with everybody that's on the panel and just ask if you will pop your videos on, and so that we can add you to the spotlighted space and everybody can see you. So for those who are not yet in the space, it may be because I can't spotlight you because your video isn't on.
So to go back to exploring the historical context that which we've just talked about, and understanding the position with HBCUs and African universities, how can the historical role of HBCUs foster political consciousness, social justice movements to leverage, to strengthen partnerships with African universities, and support the vision of Pan-African unity, community, and innovation today in your own way? Please share.
Well, okay, I'll just go ahead and jump out there. So I'm Charles Johnson. I chair the Department of History at North Carolina Central University, which was established in 1910 by Dr. James Edward Shepard in an effort to help African Americans who were in the midst of what we knew as Jim Crow segregation here in the United States to have educational opportunities. We became the first state-supported liberal arts college in 1925 and a university in 1969. The Department of History here has produced 93 graduates who've gone on to earn a PhD. And I put that out there so that you can be thinking of ways, places for your students to land and so forth. I think obviously, Kim, this is a step in the right direction. Bringing us into conversation with our colleagues overseas, having an opportunity to share what we're doing here and looking for points of intersection. I will say that NCCU, probably most HBCUs, are in a place where we have vast resources and human capacity, but not so much in material and financial support and capacity. We certainly had a potential to write grants and so forth, but our institutions are not able to give us the support that our peer TWI or predominantly white institutions often have. So I think one of the things that we can do is think about how we create synergies where we have points of strength within our respective institutions and pair those with perhaps points of weakness that are speaking to moving the agenda that we are discussing today, forward. So what that would look like is at North Carolina Central University, for example, my identifying like colleagues here, I see Dr. Grady joining us, for example, and others, who are doing this work and have this interest, getting an understanding of what expertise that we have, cataloging that so that we can share it, right? And then looking for points of intersection with our colleagues who are abroad. When we spoke, I guess initially, I indicated the importance of having some sort of mechanism for being able to carry on the work that we're starting, right? So I'm going to be taking notes extensively to make sure that I'm hearing from what my colleagues have to share, so that I can be thinking about ways that we can collaborate. Now, as it relates to this project, I thank Dr. Leslie Clement for inviting me to participate in this today. Dr. Clement and Dr. Stooks and I are working on creating a interinstitutional, interdisciplinary team talk course called AI in the African Diaspora. And I bring in expertise in African diaspora history, right? So we can look at this sort of as a model for how we can build out what we're doing. As our colleagues, brothers and sisters on the continent are listening, they can be thinking about, and I will let Dr. Stooks and Dr. Clement share more about that, thinking about how they can engage with us, because if we're teaching a course on AI in the African diaspora, it'll be much more effective if we are being inclusive of the African diaspora. So really excited for this. I think that here we are, I'm wide open. This is not new territory for me in terms of doing this work. When I was at Howard University, I had the great privilege of directing the South African Research and Archival Project that examined relationships between African Americans and South Africans, principally during the anti-apartheid period. And out of that, there have been publications and museum exhibits and so forth, trying to help educate people about the long-standing relationships between African Americans and South Africans. I would add that it's very clear to me here that there's a sense of advocacy in what we do also, right? Where we are in this moment in the United States, as I think about it, we are, politically speaking, in a very, very difficult place now, and we have to be very intentional about how we are, applying ourselves and our focus and our energies. This kind of work for me goes so much beyond just being a feel-good exercise. The implications I'm a father, the implications for the future, for our young people, for ourselves, families, and so forth, are very, very significant. So these types of discussions are really important. And while I'm saying that, and have the floor, and Kim, I'll but while I'm here, let me say this. One of the things that I would like to talk about quite candidly at some point, or hear about, you're talking about repatriation and so forth, is having that discussion too. If I have to develop, some sort of an exit strategy, what does that really look like, right? So. I'm wide open to hearing about that and discussing that as well. But thank you so much, Kim, for the opportunity to introduce myself.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Charles Johnson, and bringing this in fairly succinctly all together. And I heard you bounce off with Dr. Leslie Clement and Dr. Stoots. So I'd like to yield in on both of you to kind of pick up from that point of discussion, and then bring out furthermore what the thoughts are, what you all are thinking through this conversation.
I'll jump in. Thank you, Miss Kimberly, for inviting me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward towards the dialogue and collaboration. And one of the things that I hope that we leave with today is an actionable plan on how we can collaborate, especially HBCUs, because I believe that one thing that we have in common with HBCUs and the African continent is there's this deficit-based language often used to discuss our institutions in the continent of Africa, and consider HBCUs as leading thought leaders. And we have our own experts They don't have to be from Harvard, Columbia, the larger PWIs, elite institutions. And I think we have to change our mindsets and help our students change our mindsets around the globe of not wanting to go to these top Ivy League schools, but look at our Black top Ivy League schools, which I consider are our HBCUs. And so I think that in relationship to our course that we're just talking about, African diaspora, AI, and AI, there's also deficit-based language around technology, and there's a digital divide. And also we have to be vigilant of that our communities are targets of surveillance, specifically in how we are represented or excluded from these conversations. So I think there are lots of opportunities for us to collaborate. Our project that we're teaching or our course that we're developing across 2 HBCUs, and we intentionally chose to collaborate with another HBCU because usually these grants want you to collaborate with a PWI and HBCU. And so we thought that it was important for 2 HBCUs to collaborate and co-teach these courses across 2 North Carolina HBCUs. So there's lots of opportunities. I would love for people on the continent, the diaspora, to come in our courses, talk to our students, create study abroad programs, and other ways that we can collaborate. And also, I would just like to take a moment, since this panel is entitled Bridging Pan-Africanism and HBCU Leadership, just to take a moment of silence to honor Pan-Africanist, revolutionary thinker, psychiatrist, freedom fighter, Frantz Fanon. So today marks 63 years since his death. He was an Afro-Caribbean leader who dedicated his life to anti-colonialism and anti-racism. And I'll pass it along to Dr. Stooks, who actually brought me in on it, in which I was on this project for African diaspora and AI. And I'm grateful for this opportunity because a lot of times the humanities and STEM do not work together. And this is something that we definitely need to continue to do as we progress.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Clement again, and Dr. Johnson. Also, thank you, Kimberly, for this opportunity to share our work and to collaborate and to discuss with our colleagues here. Again, my name is Felicia Stooks. I am an associate professor of computer science at Johnson C. Smith University. Again, it's a small private HBCU located in Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. And my goals as a faculty member in my department are to broaden participation in computer science, and because, again, we have a lack of representation in our field in a variety of ways, and that lack of representation also leads to some of the technologies that are being developed that are harmful to populations, marginalized groups and populations that are not at the table through the design and development process. So part of my work through education is to continue to make sure as many voices as possible have an opportunity to learn the skill set within computing and apply it to social issues, social problems, or society, and things that they wish to improve their life, their circumstances, their communities. And so with our course, we are very excited about this because looking at some of the curriculum development process for artificial intelligence, responsible artificial intelligence coursework, again, the voices are not very diverse, and we're looking to include that into the way we teach it. It's specifically at our institutions, but we also would like to broaden it to even non-HBCUs so that the voices are a lot more representative of those of us who are using the technologies in our day-to-day lives. So we definitely welcome, as the purpose of this event, all voices, all input, all ideas, because this is exactly how we would like to move forward in developing curriculum and broadening participation, particularly for me within computer science. So I know, Kimberly, your question was again, how can we strengthen the partnerships? And I definitely think through education, but also through collaborative education efforts.
Thank you for that. So we're in this technology innovation, AI space. Dr. Damian Clark, I know you've been leading technology and innovation with the university, and Dr. You both just chime on into this discussion from the perspective of the question.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. Good day, everyone. So thank you for having me on the panel. So I guess my perspective is a little different, just like, I guess, Dr. Stooks, more into the technology side of things. But before I get to the technology side of things, I want to address a few things that were mentioned by Dr. Johnson. And I want to address it this way. So instead of asking your question, how would HBCUs foster political consciousness and social justice? How about we simplify that and ask the question, how would HBCUs foster American football with our brothers and sisters in Africa? And I think we could answer that question very easily, because from an American football perspective, we are well organized. We have MIAC in the southeastern, in the eastern region where I am at in Alabama. We have SWAC. We have well-established organizations, governance structure to foster football, the playing of football. I have worked at multiple HBCUs, not only as a vice president of technology, but as a computer science faculty. And I've never seen a football game start late. It starts on time. But as a CS faculty, I've experienced no Wi-Fi in the classroom. I've experienced a messy IT infrastructure, right? And it's not that we can't be better from a technology perspective. We can, right? But we are not organized. So you may recognize that I'm not an American. So I'm originally from the Caribbean. So now is the Christmas season, as we say in the Caribbean, and we tend to invite people home for Christmas to eat some food. But before we do that, we clean our houses first. We make our houses look nice and pretty, and then we invite family over, and we all have a good time. So the way I would answer your suggestion is, from an HBCU perspective, we need to quote unquote get our houses in order. We need to formalize a collaboration among ourselves that is focused on not only uplifting ourselves, but uplifting others as well. My area is technology. We have everything we need for Wi-Fi, for proper bandwidth, for AI, for cloud computing. We have all of the resources here. I would love to partner with a school in Africa to maybe do disaster recovery, to maybe do backup, to maybe do archiving, because all of the facilities are here, right? But I could do it much better if I partner with John C. Smith first, if I partner with some of these other institutions first, and we create a proper networking infrastructure from a technology perspective, that we could enhance ourselves in such a way that we could scale to the African continent.
Love it. I'm loving this. And I'm also, constituency for Africa is on this line too. And I'm hoping we are also connecting from this political side, from these comments. And then Dr. Just chime on in, Dr. Grady.
I'll say it's Siobhan. Yes.
Thank
you, Kimberly, for the invitation. And I'm happy to be here. I know Dr. Stooks, we're both computer scientists, and she's not lying. The numbers are so small for.
Someone's not muted.
Yeah, So sorry about this. I cannot, unfortunately, see the participant list. So Andrew, Alice says, please take care of muting because I can't do it for some reason.
Okay, if you can unmute yourself now.
Okay, thank you. And that's no problem because that just means they're really excited about what we're talking about. And I'm happy to know that. But yes, I'm a computer scientist as well. I work in a department or school. I work with primarily master's degree students, and North Carolina Central doesn't have a computer science department. I work in information science, which is a closely related field, and I also have a background in information science as well. And I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Johnson recently, and AI is my thing, and also STEM. I want to bring people along because, as Dr. Stooks mentioned, when diverse voices are not at the table, technologies are developed that are not equitable for everyone, and we want technology to be for all people. I think one of the things that was already mentioned, and even I just want to say this from the HBCU standpoint, a little bit about my background. I just love HBCU so much. I'm a three-time graduate. I just couldn't get enough of it. And I just want to affirm what was already mentioned. You don't have to go to an Ivy League school to be successful. I assure you, I'm in the same rooms as many of those who went to those institutions, and I hold my own and I do it very well. To add to that, I think part of the problem, not just with making these connections, but just with, let's just talk about HBCUs. A lot of times we are all working so hard, we don't know what each other is doing. So I think that in conjunction with connecting with some of our institutions in Africa, we just need a way, and maybe there's something that exists out there, but I don't know about it. But we need a way to know about what universities are there, who wants to connect, collaborate, some type of repository or listserv where we can actually connect and put the calls out there when we're doing projects. I think that would be extremely helpful. And also, I'm just thinking about my own program. A lot of times we are looking for international students. If I had a connection with different African universities for students who wanted a master's degree in information science, I could, recruit students from your institution. But we don't know about each other. And so I don't know how we can fix that to learn more about what others are doing and how we can not only make the connection, but keep it going. So I do agree with everything that everyone has already mentioned. Maybe this is our starting point, but one thing we need to do is make sure that it keeps going. Because a lot of times we start these conversations and then it falls off. But how can we keep it going?
Thank you so much, Dr. Grady, for that. This is it. This is the beginning of it all, and we own this. This is intentional. So we're going to open up for questions, right, Dr. Robin? At this point, we know that there's many out there that may that feel prompted to respond. I was thinking of a couple of people while the conversation was brewing. I was even thinking about Dr. Tafesse as well. But anyone to chime in with the thoughts.
Absolutely. Please pop your hands up, and I'm going to de-profile everybody so that we can see the whole room and see whose hands are coming up. So let's pay attention to each other as we do that. And please pop your hands up. Let's see who's keen to contribute thoughts and observations into the room. And the truth is, there is always enormous wisdom in a room full of people like this. So let's bring it. Who's keen to ask a question, make an observation, add their thoughts to this conversation? Just pop your hands up. Damaro, lovely to see your hand.
Thank you very much, Kim, and presenters. My question is about the possibility and the potential of developing curriculum just jointly between the HBCUs and then African universities, an area that is not much developed or appreciated. And I think that would go a long way to create the kind of synergy the collaboration we are talking about, because there is a kind of a void in terms of knowledge production within the continent, where we have a lot of indigenous knowledge systems, yet sometimes with the infrastructure and the ecosystem in terms of computer science and is one thing. So I would want to hear some comments about this possibility, potential for collaboration. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Let's hear from a few people and then let's go back and have a response. So Ashley.
Hello, sorry, I'm driving, so my camera is not on. But some of the things that were talked about, I definitely resonate with. So I have a nonprofit organization called International HBCU Exchange, which focuses on increasing HBCU student knowledge and awareness and hopefully participation in federally funded international exchange programs. And I have participated in the Fulbright program twice. And last year I was in South Africa, and some of the things that I think HBCUs could leverage is encouraging not only their students, but scholars to apply for the Fulbright program. And, you know, since we have this connection here, we're already connected with some universities on the continent, and making sure that when we do our IRBs, we do them from our, you know, the HBCU as well as the institution that we'll be researching out of. And from my own experience, earlier this year, I applied for a grant from the U.S. Embassy, $200,000 to increase research collaborations and partnerships between HBCUs in the States and historically Black universities in South Africa. So when we're thinking about funding, we can look at State Department funding so that we can do an exchange or offer the opportunity to think about partnerships. The Fulbright Specialist Program, you can go visit, you apply and you can go visit a host institution on the continent and work on developing curriculum, and that's a partnership right there. I think there are tons of ways that we can increase this much needed partnerships and collaborations that will really push forward our institutions.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know that we had a chance to respond to the first question.
Yep, Dr. Johnson, we're taking a few questions before
we respond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can yield to Rhonda Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
Greetings. I'm Rhonda Pierce. I'm with Sister Cities International. I have been working with Sister Cities since 2012. I'm not in academia, I'm not an educator, but I work with educators quite a bit. I reach out to them all the time. We started a virtual exchange that you now know because of COVID, but we've done it since 2012 with secondary schools, with high schools. And so exchanging between the lower schools just to give them a chance to be exposed. I've been in software engineering for over 28 years, and I've worked in international companies, and this is what I do every day, all day. And so I was really concerned that there's not enough interaction with our students in the U.S. with others that aren't from the U.S. And so because of the connection with Sister Cities in Africa, we're with the Sister Cities of Durham Arusha Committee. I'm co-chair with Gwendolyn Bookman. Dr. Bookman is with Bennett College. And so we began programming. We brought in the water department. There was a water issue at the school. So we brought in the water department of Durham, North Carolina, and they began to share, how do we get our water? How do we do water treatment? We went to the water treatment plant with our students here. And then I asked the students in Arusha, Tanzania to go to where their water comes from. And so we began these just organic exchanges. We did, cultural exchanges, music and arts and so forth. But as time went on, I looked at opportunity because I'm also in engineering, STEM opportunities. And so there was a Nelson Mandela Fellow, and I want to encourage everyone to look at those folks that are in the fellowships, like the lady was talking about from Fulbright, but also any of the IVP or the alumni, they're always willing to work and connect you as well. But she is a drone pilot in Tanzania, and I asked her to bring that opportunity, the basics of drone technology to our students in Title I schools and so forth. And at first she thought I was joking because she's like, you're talking about America and you want me to teach them. But I did want to see the alternate where we always are trying to show our African brothers and sisters. I wanted them to show us. So it worked really well. Toledo, Ohio, and the University of Toledo got engaged, and they started working with her. Again, she's an individual entrepreneur that has been in many programs with the State Department, but she was willing to do that training. And so now the State Department is helped her continue to expand to other countries. And so we are working with her as well in Durham, again, with the North Carolina Environmental Geospatial Science Program. And now she's giving an opportunity for an exchange for that program to work with a university in Tanzania. I just came back from 30 days in Tanzania and was talking with some professors at several colleges and universities, and they want this opportunity to make the connections. I definitely am willing and able to start connecting. We're working with the entrepreneurial at Central, the entrepreneurial department with Catrice Boyd, and connecting her. There's a request for tourism. It's a big thing in Africa, and particularly in Tanzania. It was actually promoted by the president of Tanzania. But how does tourism look and how does it work and how can we expand it so it's more than just about safari? What else does our African countries offer? So I dived in and talked to the University of Dar es Salaam and it was like, how can we work with the North Carolina Central University? And so there's opportunities there. I think it just the connections, because I'm not academia, I'm not bringing what your lenses are, typically how you go about things. I'm doing it in a more organic way, but also a more practical way. I'm looking more at economic development opportunities to push forward, and universities have that. I spoke to a university in Arusha that was saying that if they could have their students do research on behalf of businesses that want to do business in Africa, that that would be beneficial. So there could be exchanges on both sides. What I have seen through the work I've done since 2012 is that there's a lot of gaps between us, but these gaps can be filled if we begin not just the conversation, but going there and they coming here. I've invited some people on this call because I didn't quite know how the call was going. I appreciate Dr. Guzman inviting me, but there's so much more that I could bring to this conversation. I just didn't know, how it was set up. And so there's a lot of work being done out there that's just what you're talking about. I think I love the fact that you're connecting now because I see little, small. There's no enterprise-wide efforts for the African continent. And so I want to do say that Sister Cities International has an Africa region. And so we are in about 145 African cities in the U.S. We also have an MOU with the African Center of the Study of the U.S., which is with Wits University. And they are trying to put U.S. centers in African universities throughout Africa. So this is bringing those contacts together with the State Department. There's a State Department funded opportunity. So I know Access is on the call and I don't know if they are able to speak, but anyway, that's what I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. And are you working also with the Institute with their trades mission? Okay, that's the same connection. So we're in that thing. And so there's some other things that we're cultivating from that way as well. But I want to go ahead and back to our panelists because we have a few questions, but we're going to come back to the hands that are raised. I just want them to answer the few questions and then we'll take a few more. Okay. Any panelists want to respond to any of the questions?
I'll take a go at the initial one. I think that sort of dovetails. It was about curriculum and perhaps how we can partner. I have a dear friend who is at the who trained at Howard University's on faculty at the University of the Free State. And one of the things that we're working on, Neil Raumpi is his name, Professor Neil Raumpi. One of the things that we're looking at is inviting our like our students into discussion based on the courses that we're teaching. So where, for example, I'm teaching a course on African American history, he's teaching a course on South African history. We can bring those classes together. It doesn't cost anything to do that, and we can have dialogue and discussion, very simply that way. There are clearly more robust things that we can do. But again, to me, I think it's really important that we identify, and it's been touched on again, the different expertise we have, the different needs that we have, cataloging that, not just letting it float, and then speaking to that.
Thank you, Dr. Charles.
Wonderful.
Anyone else from the panelists?
I would like to follow up on the curriculum development. I think appropriate quote is from Audre Lorde that the master's tools are not going to dismantle the master's house. So our collaboration and working together is imperative if we want our students to know about the continent from a non-deficit perspective and the African diaspora. And our collaboration efforts need to be more progressive. And so I'm grateful for the dialogue, but like someone said earlier, a lot of times we have these dialogues and there are no action plans when we leave. So I would like to emphasize that again. But curriculum development, as Dr. Johnson says, we can collaborate across now that we have the technology to do so. But we also need to instill make sure that our curriculum is centering Africa, African voices, African diaspora, and also amplifying our leaders at HBCU institutions and African institutions. And we need to make sure that our students are applying to these, to our institutions and not, again, going to the PWIs as their first choice. And I have nothing against PWIs, but I'm just, we're often left out of the conversation and we're not seen as these thought leaders and experts in our fields. And so the curriculum is very important in how we develop it. And we need a transdisciplinary perspective, not just our American, US perspective here, but we need different perspectives from scholars around the globe.
And
thank you so much for that.
If I may add something.
Yeah.
Isaac Simi from Dalhousie University in Canada. We've established the first and so far only Black and African Diaspora Studies or Black Studies or Africana Studies degree program in Canada, and it's 2024. I'd just like to build on the idea that Dr. Clement had made about the epistemic violence, if not epistemicide, that exists. And one of the things we're doing here is we're trying to build, my colleague and I, and other program, links with African universities and also universities in Colombia. There's a lot of thinking going on in Colombia and Brazil as well, right? And one of the things that informs us is not only establishing, as was pointed out, people of African descent as knowledge generators, right? But also using different pedagogies and methodologies. And so I know Fanon was mentioned, and one of the things we hope to do is host Frantz Fanon's daughter here at my university at the end of February. But this is also the 100th anniversary of his birth. But it's also Walter Rodney and his groundings with my brothers, which I would say would be now groundings with my sisters and brothers, right? That methodology, right? In which, basically you learn from the people in that sense, right? And even though we have a formalized existing sense of body of knowledge, we sort of, utilize it, right? To help people critically think about the conditions they're living in. And, the last point I'd like to make is the Black struggle is all, yes, it's occurred in local context, but it's always been transnational, right? Okay, and global in its implications. And I think the important points here, and I think just coming through, is given the geopolitical transformations in the world, given the climate change that's facing, given the challenges of AI and so forth, we have to have this kind of interconnection and unity, right? In action, right? Because we know who who gets left behind, who gets super exploited. Some people are arguing now there's a new scramble for Africa emerging as new geopolitical tectonic shifts take place. So I think it's important, and going back to what others have said, and I think it was Dr. Johnson, at the end of the day, we have to make sure this dialogue and this conversation isn't just simply a dialogue and conversation. It leads to a concrete plan of practice and concrete networks being set up. So right now at my university, we're trying to establish, at least on a one-on-one basis, links with these universities in Africa and in Latin America.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, Robin, you were going to say, yeah, okay. You want to take that last hand, or do you want to wait to build off of that?
So Melvin's been waiting so patiently, but just to say we did ask for the extra 30 minutes and we're soon going to have to ask for an extra 30 minutes. It is the challenge of this amazing conversation. And this is also the reason why this is not a once off. So relational work and building of relational networks is progressive, continuous work. And we have a plan for that. Melvin, could you succinctly bring your voice to round off?
Okay, I really want to say how pleased I am to be on this call. It really is the way to clean the end of the year. Kimberly, hello. I haven't talked to you for a long time, and happy to see you and know you're doing all these great things. You know, my best friend is Dr. Julius Garvey, who is the son of Marcus Garvey, and I'm certainly going to brief him on this conversation. I had a conversation this morning with Dr. Malana Karanga, who is the founder of Kwanzaa, and we were talking about a lot of the same things. I want to say that there need to be more partnerships with organizations like mine. We work to shape U.S. policy toward Africa. We certainly can't do what you do, and I don't think you can do what we do. But this is where this partnership, it needs to be outside the university. You know, I think what you guys do is invaluable, but you also need to have contacts with the advocacy organizations that actually do work. I'm working right now to try to shape U.S. policy toward Africa with the Trump administration. And I already know who the Assistant Secretary for Africa is going to be. I'm trying to figure out what angles we can make. So the question for me is, how do we really do partner? We don't want to take anything away from what you're doing, but we think that with young people coming up, many of the young people in college and the university contact me because they want to at least work with me on programs and so forth to learn how do they get involved in shaping U.S. policy. I went through the Peace Corps. That's how I got started 50 years ago. And now I've been to 45 countries in Africa. I know many of the heads of state personally, but we need to also be working on how do we get your product, how do we get your students to be practically engaged in shaping policies and impacting, implementing U.S. policy toward Africa. I'm going to leave it there because I know you're time constrained, but I'm enjoying this very much. And thank you for allowing me to join you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melvin. So here we see it, the power of generative dialogue in action. Can everybody feel like, it's coming, like what is possible when we actually listen to each other? So it's messy, it's beautiful, and it needs time, and it needs relationship. So we are going to move on. Yes, it is.
I'm sorry. Very, very quickly. I would like to just make a short comment.
Please, very short, Aziz.
Yeah, don't worry. Africa Voices Dialogues, you know, it's a dialogue that generates thinking, it generates ideas. We're not much focused on answers. We're much focused on connection. And I think that the connection has started already. I have seen one lady raising her hand. If we can give her a voice.
Well, if you don't mind, Aziz, because Liz, we love you. I love you, Liz, and I'm so happy to see you here. Can you pop if it's a comment, pop it into the chat so we've got it. Keep it. There's more space for voice just now. Keep it also for the breakaway room spaces. May we move into our next discussion because this, if you thought the last panel was busy, this is a very busy panel too. And so welcome to our panel of representatives from African education institutions, universities, tertiary colleges, etc., across the African continent. This is a really, really rich group of people. I've seen we don't have one or two of them, but I think we have most of them. And so welcome to each of you, Prof. Odamara, Prof. Ndirango Kioni, Rashid Umil, Prophet Saad Al-Malik King, Said Benamar, excuse me, I'm not using all of your titles, Teodros Negusi, and Peter Muchiri, Tefesa Mateos, Millicent Ajay, and Jeremiah Kalai, and Maximus Sifota, I don't think is here, but if he's here, we're going to find him. Please could, Andrew and Aziz, could you just help us to spotlight this incredible group of people? And what we really want to do is to pick up on something that Rhonda referenced just now, which is the reciprocity of the exchange potential. And we'd really like to step into a conversation and into a thinking space around what are you seeing that excites you, that's emerging from our continent, Africa, in terms of learning innovation, exciting new indigenous knowledge practices, and how do you see what's emerging out of the African university space as being able to relate to HBCUs and other academic institutions around the globe? What contributions do you see our continent's knowledge production, knowledge methodologies making into these spaces? So may I ask you, Dr. Malik, if you could kick us off and just any thoughts from you?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this August panel. I have just been taking so many notes here, trying to keep up with all the great information. So I am Asad Al-Malik with the African Center for the Study of the United States. Our colleague from Sister Cities International mentioned our organization. I just want to speak from experience as it relates to how African is, and for those who don't know, I'm an American from New Orleans, but I live here in Johannesburg. But how African institutions can impact HBCUs, particularly in curriculum and understanding. So earlier this year, we partnered with the National Association of Black Social Workers, and we brought 20 HBCU students from Howard, Morgan State, Alabama State, Xavier, and a few more here to WITS for 2 weeks, but they were all social work students, and they were so shocked and surprised by the macro approach to social work that is taught at WITS University, and which, if you know anything about social workers, that macro approach is how most Black American social workers approach social work. However, it's not the way that the curriculum or the test, that social work test, is designed. So they were so impressed with that, to understand how this kind of community-centered social work. I think that oftentimes, and I'm kind of pivoting here, I think oftentimes when we're having these HBCU conversations in the African continent, often it seems to be a one-way kind of deal. The HBCU is going to bring this and offer this. I'm at WITS University. It's ranked at like top 1% of universities in the world. I went to Dillard University in New Orleans. It cannot compare. Right? There are so many things that are taking place at WITS, so many facilities, so many partnerships, so many great academics that are coming out of that university, out of this university, that oftentimes I'm thinking WITS could help HBCUs so much, right? But I don't know if that answers your questions. I'll kind of stop there and maybe hear some more, and I want to jump in with a few other things later.
Fantastic. Thank you. So if anybody feels something compelling, just pop your hand up so that you go next. But Rashid, maybe I can ask you to take over from there, and after you, Millicent is keen.
Okay, thank you so much, Robin, for inviting me to this panel, which is really I think the conversation about the HBCU is an exciting conversation because it's in my sense, it touches on the transformative, intersection, especially between the three things that are education, culture, and innovation. And particularly, in the context of the Africa continent, reach in terms of with the diverse knowledge system and also an adapted potential. So I see that the discussion bridges the traditional, especially indigenous, practices and modern learning innovation, and highlighting the relevance not only on local communities, but also to the global education paradigms. So I would like to go a little back so especially to the approach of collaboration and the innovation. And I'm asking and how this collaboration and how this innovation can come in terms. So here I'm suggesting in terms especially of innovation to adopt like a new paradigm of innovation which is open innovation paradigm, which is inspired exactly from the things that you said in the very beginning, which is the openness in terms of three main things: open mind, open heart, and open will. So with these three open, so really pushed me to say, okay, why not to think about this open innovation that is seen like a paradigm which is inspired from the use of purposive inflows and outflows of the knowledge to accelerate internal innovation and expand to the markets in external innovation respectively. Which means here, for example, let's consider this BCU like a platform in which we have to fix up which first kind of knowledge that we want to generate. And this knowledge, which is, for example, is specifically or which is stick to the African culture and what we want exactly to generate, and which segment or unit we have, for example, to target to generate this knowledge. Because what is really important too is not just collaboration and in connections. Yes, collaboration and connections, but in my sense, I see that we have to work this collaboration by segments or by units. For example, I'm in digital management and innovation. I can be in touch with or in connections with the people from, I can say example of people from, I can say in technology or in computer science, in order to do what exactly? To develop curriculums that are taking in consideration or taking specifications of, for example, a Moroccan of a Moroccan context, and those as an African continent, as an African country, sorry, with those of other countries in Africa, and then try to see how these, for example, can help us to come really with how I can say it, with the knowledge that could be interesting, especially at that time. So my idea is, yes, collaborating in generating knowledge, innovating too, but how? So by trying to create first segments with people that where we are, for example, we have the same job, or we have like a homogeneity in terms of a job, in terms of, for example, of a specialty or area of research, etc. That will help us to come up with how I can say it, to come up with the curriculums that would be really interesting for the students, for the exchange, even for the joint project, etc. So this is my idea in general, and thank you.
Fantastic. Millicent, I've got to find you because somehow you dropped off the spotlight, but Millicent, you had your hand up, and then Said has his hand up after that.
Yes, thank you very much, and it's so exciting to be on this platform. Thank you so much for the invitation. I just am so excited about the perspective our first two respondents, spoke about the amazing things happening on the continent that other universities can learn from, right? So my own university, HBCU, where I work as the director of Office of Diversity and International Programs that oversees all our institutions, we are barely 25 years on the continent, but are doing some really groundbreaking things when it comes to employability, when it comes to research, when it comes to just the way of doing higher education on the continent, right? Right from the word go, we decided to focus on leadership, scholarship, and citizenship. And when you pop HBCU's name anywhere on the how do you call it, Google, first thing that comes up is leadership, right? And I talk about some groundbreaking things because personally, I did my master's and PhD at the University of Minnesota. My focus of study or scholarship is on first generation and low income students, right? And here I didn't find one, academic material on first generation and low income students. I went into this program because I had to manage a $500 million, scholarship program for first gen low income students all across Africa. And it was just so amazing, the level of tenacity, the level of engagement, and their own backgrounds that is causing them in the midst of so much, precarious background, them surviving. And so this was what I went into my PhD program with. And everything I learned about first-gen low-income students in the US was deficit. They have low graduation rate, low. So I went with this narrative until I came back home because I was using some populations in my university as my sample. And guess what? I came back home and I had to change the entire trajectory of my research because guess who are on the dean's list? Guess who are taking all the prizes? Guess who were the commencement speakers? Guess who all had jobs after graduating? It was the first generation and low-income students. And I was like, okay, then this university must be doing something radically different that is situating them for their students to go on this path. And I had to shift into a more asset-based, which is not the direction. My focus then really, really shifted to how do we look at indigenous research, indigenous approach, indigenous theories when we are doing research, where we don't just take the already established. So a big part of my whole PhD program was that the students use the terminology hustling, that they are hustlers, right? And so I wanted to write on hustling. And then my very white professor said, no, I can't write on hustling because it has negative connotation. And I literally had to fight, right, to maintain that, because that was the language that my participants were using. And I wanted to, guess what, fast forward a month into my graduation, Oxford Publications come up with a book. And what was one of the chapters they were looking for? It was on hustling. And so one very fine morning, my professor calls and say, hey, have you seen this, right? But one of their fears was I wasn't going to be published. I wasn't going to be, because hustling is a negative, I should use resilience. I said, no. So how are we honoring the African contextual, whether it's in the epistemological approaches, contests, and all of that, and then make up spaces for researchers doing this kind of work to be honored? Because the dream of any researcher is to be published. And if the only spaces to publish are the white spaces, and we as African universities are not making this way, then nobody is going to honor that. Because trust me, it took a lot of effort. But here I was with a fantastic university, 95% graduate employment rate within 6 months, right? You can't tell me that this won't beat any Ivy League university out there, because they are being recruited into Goldman Sachs, into Bank of America. My students finish with 2-3 job offers, struggling to make a decision where they should go. So the question is, how are we also looking at methodologies, models of educating young people that is working, that can be used in some of these negative narratives, even in predominantly Black, African HBCUs, right? If there's a model that is working, I don't see why just because it's on the African continent, other universities can't learn. And so about 6 years ago, Ashesi started the Education Collaborative, which is a platform of bringing together several African universities who are doing amazing, groundbreaking research, student development, student outcome, entrepreneurship, where we gather and learn from each other. Because as a university, we got so much overwhelming people reaching out. how are you doing this? Your graduates are being, are getting the job. How are you doing that? So we said we don't want to believe that we're the only ones doing this. There are other universities on the continent. And so the Education Collaborative, I'll put the link here, is one such spaces that if you're looking for stellar African universities that are doing groundbreaking things, worth sharing, worth collaborating with, worth learning from each other, that is a conglomerate of universities already in that space, right? And because it's for the continent, we have several hubs. Every other year, we have the convenings where we come together throughout the year. And then universities that are really stellar in specific areas mentor their other universities. So our universities have gotten the opportunity to mentor several universities in employability because of our graduate employment rate. So they're helping them set up their career services. We do a lot of work in leadership. So we develop a leadership and ethics curriculum where other universities are learning. So just to conclude that there's a lot happening already on the continent that other universities who are HBCUs can learn from. Currently, we are in conversation with Howard University, talking about, student exchanges, and then focusing on certain areas that are contextually African that they can learn, from us. So these things are already happening in these small spaces, and I want to believe that if we're looking for, spaces where universities are already gathered, those are some of the spaces that we can begin to look at and begin that sharing opportunities. Thank you.
Fantastic. Timosa, would you like to manage the future flow? So I know Said had his hand up, and then Tafisa had his hand up as well.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, well, first, I'm just so grateful to be in this space, and I'm thinking about the opportunities that already exist as well. Having literally just relocated to Ghana, having been a part of a historical ceremony where 524 diasporans were granted citizenship here in Ghana, I just think about the untapped potential and opportunity that exists already here for this type of collaboration to be fostered, to be cultivated, and to be shared. So I just appreciate these comments and sitting with so much in this moment. So I do want to kick it over to Tafisa. I know that he had his hand up, so I'm going to kick it over to you for your comments.
Prof. Benema?
Saeed is on.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Particularly, I'm very happy to be here with you. I'm really enjoying this generative dialogue. I think what we're doing here really is showing capacity, or let's say a really inclusive and cultural capacity to unify people from different backgrounds, from the United States and from our continent. Maybe I suggest maybe to think how we could institutionalize this kind of dialogue in at the level of our institutions to make it more formal, if you want. Well, to move forward, let's say that I have completed my doctorate degree in education in the United States, and really, that achievement was in a real capstone because it opened my eyes on really the transformative agendas into which many universities, American universities, have been engaged, and how these universities really were really learning focused, and how they, led the students to achievement. And when I came back to reflect about the problems in education issues in Africa, I see that we have really some big issues. And one of the big issues to which we confronted here in Africa is how we could enhance the quality of learning. When we see that maybe, not maybe, but sure, around 50% of students leave the university. So we have a rate of attrition around 50%. This is a very alarming indicator that shows that there is a big issue, big problem about learning, how we teach in our universities. And I mean, when I learned from the American universities, I learned that really they engaged in a really transformative agenda, and it was not easy to do that because they were engaged in really transformative shift from a paradigm of teaching to another one of learning. So I think maybe when I came back to Morocco, specifically in my country, it was a bit difficult to convince. I mean, colleagues and even staff and academic staff here to change. Maybe that's the case in everywhere. There's the story of resistance to change. But I think that maybe in terms of collaboration, we could open, a theme about how we could exchange our experiences about leadership, how we could rethink academic leadership, how we could rethink the paradigm of leadership in our African universities to make it more student focused, to make it more impact oriented, if you want. This is on one hand. And in different African countries, they have tried to go through reforms, even in my country. But the issue is that these reforms have never been successful. Maybe because they've never been based on evidence or evidence, based research, but maybe based on ideology. This is why our African universities are highly politicized. So maybe we need to think about how we could make it more, research and evidence-based. Maybe talk about this. The second point is how we could maybe jeopardize, the paradigms of learning, how to think to revise our curriculum design, make it more, transversal, interdisciplinary, experience-based. I mean, what we're doing in our African universities is just we import in knowledge. We don't want to import knowledge. I mean, it's good to import. It's good to produce knowledge, but we need to use it as an input. We need that students use that knowledge into a transformative strategy to resolve the real issues of African continents. We have serious problems here: scarcity of resources, problem of poverty, access to market. Our economy is not resilient. It's not like the American or the global North. This is very serious. The second point also is maybe the second point is about the curriculum. I think we could decolonize the curriculum in our African universities because once again, I mean, all we're teaching is cases about American enterprises, European cases, and so on. But we need maybe to adapt the concepts to counter cases to African reality. We have performing enterprises. We have qualified resources that could be used, in our curriculum. So decolonizing curriculum could be a good starting to capitalize in local knowledge. We need to have that local knowledge, which actually don't have because it's an heritage of a post-colonial agenda of development after the war. Like it's just using help and aid. We don't want aid. We don't want help. We want a real partnership based on a real transfer, where Africans really depends on their resources, their wealth, their energy. We have a huge amount of qualified people here. So I think there is no one better than Africans to know about the African context, African reality, okay? And Africa belongs to Africans. So I think we need collaboration, partnership, but we don't want to copy. We don't want that any model be imposed on us. We want to discuss and we want to adapt. And I think that with humility, with empathy, with mutual understanding, we could achieve, a lot of things together.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. So, Tefesa, Prof. Odomaro, Prof. Kioni, if you would like to just add your thoughts, I see you. Let's if Tefesa can go, Prof. Odomaro, and then yourself, Prof. Kioni, and just a lovely succinct thought. Thank you. Tewodros, you are.
Thank you so much, Robin and Kimberly, for organizing this very wonderful platform where we are managed to meet the subcontinent of Africa in order to, other than the five that we know. So very much pleased to meet our brothers and sisters all over the world. And I want to talk a little bit about climate change because in the previous discussions, AI has been thoroughly discussed, and climate change, as everybody knows, has become a serious threat to sustainable development all over the world. And the problem is more severe in Africa. If you see the genesis of the problem, the genesis of climate problem, Africa contributed very little. And if you see the figures, the greenhouse gas emission figures, the contribution of Africa is less than 3%. And if you see the impacts, Africa is being hard hit by the impacts of climate change. And the reasons are several. We can mention several reasons, and one of them can be a dependency on rain-fed agriculture. That's political and economic instability in this part of the continent. So we can work on climate change. We can, work on some of the indigenous climate adaptation mechanisms by some wise Africans. Here in Ethiopia, we have some communities in the southern part of the country, and the one that I want to mention here is the Gedeo people who live in the southern part of the country, who are very known for their agroforestry practice, which has been recognized as one of the indigenous knowledge by UNESCO in 2023. So there can be different adaptive strategies to climate change, but the agroforestry practice, which capitalizes on using forestry crop production together in order to boost productivity, in order to boost biodiversity and sustainability, is very crucial to cope up with the impacts of climate change. The other experience from Ethiopian side on combating climate change is the Green Legacy Initiative by the Ethiopian government to plant different types of trees which can boost agricultural productivity, can minimize the impacts of these greenhouse gases. And because of these very aggressive initiatives over the last 4 years, the Ethiopian forest cover has increased from 3% to 24%, which is very much amazing. So we need to work on climate change in addition to AI. So in this regard, working in collaboration with our brothers and sisters in African universities and with African diaspora is very much important. There is the issue of this carbon marketing, which recently held in Azerbaijan, if I'm not mistaken. There have been lots of promises, but the impact of climate change is hitting Africa very hard. So we need to work on this. We need to improve livelihood resilience so that the impact on Africa can be minimized. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Professor. Just to say, time. So, Prof. Odumaro, please, let's hand over to you from Kima University, and then Prof. Kioni to you, and Tawedros will come to you after that. But just bear in mind, we have a little time pressure.
Thank you very much, Robin. There was a technical hitch over here, but main focus will be on the mismatch we have identified between the curriculum and the skills offered and the job opportunities for the graduates. For us, this is a major concern that most of the university graduates spend on average 3-4 years after graduating. And therefore, this necessitated us to work very almost aggressively to promote a curriculum that promotes hands-on, that gives practical skills, and hence the focus on data science and artificial intelligence. We are trying out even some skills in financial literacy, the business innovation skills. And because of this, we have also reached out to the universities within the region. Makerere University, we also have reached out to Kisi University and University of Rwanda, where we have gotten some professors to come and give some programs on small scale, not and using these micro credentials. But even before you begin the full-fledged university program, and actually experiment and pilot some of the courses through certificate programs that are not necessarily academic, but which impart skills to the graduates and the students, and even reaching out to the community. So this is the kind of approach and the philosophy we are taking, and we definitely would wish to get more collaboration with the HBCUs, and then we scale this up when we fully operating. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I think I can go. So yeah, so thank you for this initiative, and I think it's timely. I will share a few points and do this quickly because probably there's not much time. One is that we are working on two very important platforms, which I think can they can facilitate one of the things that we are discussing about enhancing the linkages between HBCUs and African universities. One of those is the Origin Research and Innovation Labs. This is a new concept that we have started working on. It's a concept of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. The idea is that we can leverage the talent that we have in Africa and in the diaspora to quickly address the problems that we face on the continent. The platform has 5 hubs on the continent. We just started the first one, and the first one is hosted by Dena Kimathi University of Technology. We've already started, and we have a number of universities that have come on board. And on that platform, we also are creating specific discipline-specific networks. For example, we just created one on cosmetic products, personal skin care and hair care, consortium for researchers and practitioners. And we've also creating another one on semiconductor variations and so on. So that is one very important platform that we can use to enhance the partnership across Africa and across the Atlantic. The other one is the Alliance of Entrepreneurial Universities in Africa. It has a membership of about 51 universities now. It is growing rapidly. This one is informed by the need to address the youth bulge. We have a lot of young people coming out of our institutions, and they do face the challenges of getting employed. And the idea then is that if the universities can come together and look at, learn from each other, then it's possible to start changing the employment landscape. And we are looking at that, at the possibility of also having partners across the Atlantic who can also open up or introduce us to new business opportunities. So an important theme now running across the continent and based on the initiatives that we have is one of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I see the possibility of working with HBCUs to connect with their alumni because they are in the American business world. So it is possible to provide a bridge between the African business communities and the African youth with American businesses. We have also another interesting initiative that we just started, and that is to promote youth mobility intra-Africa and trans-Atlantic. In this particular initiative, we call it the Practical Field Lab. It is under the Origin Research and Innovation Labs. We are bringing American youth from essentially those ones of African descent back to Africa, where they can then work alongside the students in African universities and work in communities. So you have basically three key players there. You have youth from America of African descent. You have youth in Africa, and then they go and work in the communities with the intervention of the professors. Professors also from America and professors from African universities. We call it the Practical Field Lab. We are doing this with our Africans, starting with MIT. It's led by Professor Shakanase Mavunga and myself. And we have Kenya, Ethiopia, Morocco, Zambia, and Zimbabwe now involved. We are looking at expanding that, and we aim to involve up to probably 1,000 students in a year. We started this early this year, and we've been able to involve up to 60 students. We are hoping that that's something that we can grow. In terms of the curriculum, there are many things that can actually be done. What I would like to point out here is that African universities are young. I give the example of Kenya. Up to 2002, we only had 5 universities. Within 2 decades, the number has grown to 74 universities. These universities are in the formative stages, and they are looking for partnership. And part of looking for that partnership is to have well-established universities and HBCUs from what we are running are well-established to train the human resource that is required. If we're able to have proper linkages between these very young universities and the HBCUs, then you start having this very strong and permanent relationship across the Atlantic. When we look for partners, we are a little non-discriminatory. We're just looking for people who are willing to give us opportunities. So it's important, therefore, to figure out how the HBCUs can gain visibility and become better known. We go to Ivy League because sometimes they have programs and they reach out to Africa. So we need to figure out how the HBCUs can actually do that. As we speak, we are just this week, we are working with 3 HBCUs on student exchange, and we hope to be able to exchange a number of students in the coming years. Dedan Kimathi University is named after freedom, the person who led Kenya's military effort in the 1950s, and I think this is well known across the region. It's very well known in South Africa. So one of the ways we promoted that kind of linkage was to honor President Thabo Mbeki with an honorary doctorate of this university. And through that, we're able to establish a partnership with South African University. So I think there are certain things we can also start working on so that the body of the students and also the faculty in Africa are aware of the things that bind us when we talk about Pan-Africanism. We have a Heroes Garden, and in that Heroes Garden in the university, we have the bust of Nelson Mandela and also of Kimathi, and these were unveiled jointly between South Africa and ourselves. And in that Heroes Garden, we would like to have many more heroes, and we could engage in that jointly with HBCUs to start telling the story and to start providing that connection and ensuring that presence is being experienced by students on a daily basis. And this is what we have done with some of the statues that have already been erected in our Heroes Garden. We also started the Center for African Renaissance Studies. We are University of Technology, so you can imagine us going into that kind of stuff, starting a Center for African Renaissance Studies. And the whole idea of that center is to expose our students in sciences and technology, because almost we are almost exclusively a science and technology university. But we've made it mandatory that students must learn quite a bit of the history of Africa and Africans on the continent and in the diaspora. So the Center for African Renaissance Studies provides an opportunity actually to develop the kind of curriculum that you're talking about. In Kimathi, we've made it mandatory to take a minor degree. Students come here and enroll for a degree in engineering, but they also take a minor degree of up to 8 units, 8 course units, which means almost 24 credits, to understand the history and African heritage. So when we talk of our own curriculum, these are things that can actually be able to do. Another very important trend that is there on the continent, which you can also leverage, is the emergence of science and technology parks. We are looking for partnerships. And we are trying to invite people who in the diaspora who are interested in bringing technology to Africa. So one of the greatest achievements we have had so far is to bring semiconductor manufacturing into our science park. And because of that, we've created a new way of exchanging students with the American universities, because they can now come and run stuff that's at the cutting edge. And what we are running is that the opportunity we are giving to the American students is opportunity that they are not able to get actually in America. So there are all these opportunities that are actually possible. So I'm happy that you have created this opportunity, and indeed I think we need to figure out a way of moving this forward. My background is engineering. I'm not a historian or in education. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have been the founding vice chancellor of Denmark Kimathi University. I served for over 15 years as the head, and we've been able to curate all these things I'm talking about. And I see a similar opportunity when you are dealing with all these young universities on the continent. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry I renamed you and I put your wrong name because I didn't have it in front of me. So Prof. Kioni, if you want to rename your university properly, please forgive me. It was my fault.
Oh, yeah, it's massive.
Correctly named. So thank you. We are really tight on time now. We still want to create space for conversation in rooms. Can we have 3 or 4 comments and contributions from the floor, and not more than like a quick less than a minute to just share what is sparked for you, what is exciting you, what are you thinking? Is there any burning question? And I'm going to de-profile us. So
Robin, as the community gets in, as they prepare to ask questions. Prior to this group, African Forum group, we had Luz Marina Pinenda. We don't know whether she's still in the house to ask the questions which she was looking forward to ask.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So Luz, are you still here?
Yes, I'm still here. Hi. Well, it was actually more a comment because I'm from Colombia and I'm not a African descendant, but I work with people and that work in this, and I know I'm here because I know Robin, and I just wanted to please be grateful for you for allowing me to be here, and other things that I work in partnerships, and I'm really interested in this, in international cooperation and how people make connection. And I have to say that I really appreciate how your approach to making relations and reconnecting with all like your heritage, not just the one that is in your continent, but expanded all over. And I actually been sharing this with my people that like all the documents that you share and your profiles with my people that I know that works with Africans community that actually here from Colombia and other places are trying to reconnect and with their heritage. Like our culture is really highly influenced by it, by Africans because of the slavery and all the all the sequels. So yes, I wanted to be grateful, and I express my gratefulness to you and tell you that I love to learn about how you approach connections, because from my organization, I work in an organization that works with social emotional skills. We aim to increase our impact through connections and how to connect, because sometimes the Western world is more focused on making connections that are targeting socioeconomical evolution, and that's important, but that doesn't necessarily brings true transformation. So thank you again, Robin, for inviting me, and thank you all for your sharing.
Thank you, Liz. And yeah, lovely. How do we connect in ways that are deeply human and transformational and not merely transactional? Anybody else have something that they would like to ask, comment, something that's burning in you? Please put your hand up. We'll wait a second or two. Is there anything that emerged? Teodros.
I will be very, very brief. I agree with most of what the professor from PKT, Kione, said. I'm not going to repeat what he said, but in terms of curriculum, when it comes to learning innovation, we need to have the right curriculum. But, we are also living in a globalized world where we have to think of.
Can you speak up a little bit louder? Just a little bit louder.
Okay,
or
so
leave.
we have to think of both the local market and the globalized world when we think of developing curricula for our universities. I think one of the discussants talked about decolonializing our curricula, and we are living in the 21st century where we are living in a very globalized village, I would say. So we have to think of diversifying and also think of the global world. And another issue I would like to mention is when we think of partnership, it has been said a lot, even during our discussion so far, that we can fulfill what we need. We can improve our workshop, our spaces. We can come up with the right workshops and whatever we want. But we have to also think of involving private companies that can help in innovation, in technology incubation, and change the society which are living nearby our cities. And one example that we have here in Hawassa is the Ethio Farm Lab project that we have in Hawassa University that involves private companies, universities from different parts of the world, and I think we can impact policies, and we can also transfer technologies in a short period of time, also improve the development of the country in short period.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Paul, I see you are with us. So good to see you. So would you like to add your voice?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Wow. I mean, this is amazing. And today really marks a great step, towards fostering collaboration between educational institutions across African diaspora, and I love it. And I love the emphasis on stronger inclusion as well, on African educational institutions in this dialogue. And the partnerships, hold a lot of promise in unlocking some of the vast potentials, and shared growth around our global community, which I truly love. What I wanted to talk about, however, is how we advance the conversation, because we must not overlook the critical and persistent challenge that the issue of poverty and the urgent need to address wealth creation on the African continent. I'm from Sierra Leone, you see. So this is not just an economic issue, it's a systemic handicap, that affects education, governance, and the very fabric of communities across Africa, and I feel that to truly bridge Pan-Africanism and academic leadership, particularly through the lens of historically Black colleges and universities, we should probably prioritize financial empowerment. Let's keep the horse family in front of the cart here. by means of tackling, poverty head on, and, also aligning educational efforts with practical, actionable financial education that reflects some of the realities of today's interconnected and rapidly changing world, So these are the things that I just want to, add on as a core. Wealth creation is a foundational pillar to sustainable development. Money, we talk about money, though not often considered as a mere tool, is undeniably a strong root from which many other solutions can grow. So by embedding financial literacy, wealth building strategies into our educational system, we can empower students, educators, the communities, to break the cycle of poverty and unlock, future of economic independence in what we're doing. That's what I wanted to add here for us coming from Africa. That's what our pain point is. But thank you very much for starting this dialogue. I'm really intrigued by it, and I love what you guys are doing. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Sorry, thank you so much, Paul. Apparently, Dumi had a hand up earlier on.
Yes.
I love you, Dumi Human.
Oh, hi, Robin. Thank you. I love what Paul was saying and what Tewodros touched on, and also what you mentioned. Just the appreciation, the engagement, and for me as a practitioner academic in working in leadership around the world and supervising masters and doctoral students, one thing I've seen is the systemic nature of things that we're dealing with here. And unfortunately, I missed a big part of it because I'm in the middle of a 3-day conference. But I had to come here, pop in for this and listen in. Thank you very much. Paul, thank you for that. It's understanding, I'm taking from what you're saying, Paul, the interconnectedness of the issues that we're dealing with. For me, when we see the interconnections and the connectedness, we will start to see the solutions that are also interconnected and connected. We deal with, for example, the issue of borders across Africa, and that we think that means something. In the bigger scheme of things, really, these are superficial differentiators. We need to transcend that, because Africa's problems are not in these small pockets we call countries. It's across the continent and the diaspora and right across and universal. For me, it's understanding that this is a collective common challenge for humanity, not just for us here in this part of the world. When we see the interconnections, we start seeing the solutions that connect, that transcend our small geographies. And this is a great start with this dialogue. So thank you very much for doing that, Robin.
Thank you. Fantastic, Dumi. So glad you're here. So I'm going to open breakaway rooms for us. I want to just quickly share with us. We are so tight on time. So I've made our breakaway rooms a little smaller so that we can move through them a little quicker. So in our breakaway rooms, this is a real opportunity, and please step into it. Remember, our open mind, open heart, open will, really generative attention to each other, paying attention, respect, kindness, listening to difference, listening to voice. So I'm going to open breakaway rooms for us for 10 minutes. There are about 5 or 6 people in each room. And if I can please ask that each person has an opportunity to share this. What is it that excites you about this conversation? And what is the potential that you see? We are not going to get to definitive answers. We want to get to early connections. And this is what we're after. We're after the establishment of early, beautiful, opportune relationships. If you find somebody you love, make sure that you connect with them again afterwards. So I'm going to open up the breakaway rooms now. And we will have 10 minutes in the breakaway rooms. I'm warning you now because it is going to feel like you've been ripped out when I bring you back. But we do need to be able to close beautifully and share with you what some next steps are. And we do want to try and respect. We asked for 30 extra minutes, and we don't want to take too much more. So the rooms are opening. I will put the slide up into the room so that you can see it. And then I will take it down so it doesn't intrude on you. The question is really simple. What is it that excites you? What opportunities do you see? Okay, just have to do some assigning here. Okay, we'll see you back in 10. Aziz, could you help me with timing, please?
Yes, sure. 10 minutes.
Please, thank you. Oh, that's a pity. I set the rooms for 15 minutes, but I'll have to say we'll make it 10. Okay.
Apologies, it was technical difficulties.
Okay. All right. So is anybody battling to get into a room? Just pop your hand up. I know sometimes people are not kind of fully there. So if you're battling to get into a room, Mercedes, okay, I'm going to assign you again, Mercedes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to find you quickly. Okay. So I'm going to assign everybody I'm going to move everybody that's not in a room yet around so that hopefully.
Just a moment, I'm not yet, but I've just realized that my power is down on my phone. So I'll leave and then join again,
Okay,
then I
no
can be
problem.
assigned that group. Yeah.
No problem. I'm sorry, I'm back there, Mercedes. Finally found you. Okay. All right. So I've assigned you. Hopefully it'll pop up for you and you'll be able to move. Okay. Marsha, anybody else battling to move here? Matabo, I'm going to try and find you and put you up. Here we go. I found you. Okay, I'm gonna move you, and that will hopefully pick it up. Do you know how to? If you can just keep an eye out and see if something pops up on your screen, and then just click yes when it comes up. Okay. Otherwise, for those who left in this space, perhaps we can just share with each other. What is it that most excites you and what possibilities do you see? So, Matabo, if you're not able to move across, oh, there we go, she's gone. Anybody that's actually here and would be keen to share your thoughts. What's excited you from the conversation? Okay, so I'm just assuming that we are quiet because we're not necessarily behind our screens at the moment.
And cultural education. As I learned moving here to South Africa, Everyone says South Africa is just like the US, and in many ways it is. But once you scratch the surface and dig a little deeper, you find that there are some very important differences on the way we see the world and how we are perceived by the world. So there must be this kind of education in order to learn about each other again, as I call us, the distant cousins. And I think we've moved pretty well in that space, including our musicians and artists, such as the Afrobeats artist, Davido and Tyler from South Africa. They now have African Americans focused on the continent, at least musically, which is very important because as much as academics sit around and we talk about all of this stuff, it's the people who lead. Thirdly, it must be mutually beneficial relationships. And I say this to say that South Africa releases a critical skills list every so often. On that list, for instance, is nursing. Well, we have 32 HBCUs that have nursing programs, right? There must be a way that we can connect those 32 HBCUs to South Africa so there won't be a nursing shortage here in South Africa. On that critical skills list is also agriculture. Well, we have North Carolina A&T, that A stands for agriculture. We have, Tuskegee A&M. We have so many HBCUs that are agricultural, mechanical, agricultural and technical schools who are actually producing the graduates that the continent actually needs. And so it will be a mutually beneficial relationship. Again, I thank you all for your time. I thank you for organizing this. It was absolutely wonderful, but I just wanted to point out those three things.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Prof. Odamaro and Gwendolyn.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much,
This is
Robin. After you then.
This is Gwen Bookman from Bennett College. I also want to add my voice to how excited I am about the work that this has the potential to create. The only thing I would like to add to our thinking is to make sure that we also collaborate with other organizations that are attempting to achieve the same objective. My colleague, Rhonda Pierce, spoke quite at length about what Sister Cities is doing. And I have not been as active with the global part of Sister Cities as she has, but I know that there are efforts underway by Sister Cities to do at least some of what this conversation has indicated is important as well. So again, the only thing I would like to add is that as we start the work that we're going to do, that we make sure we collaborate with those organizations that are already underway in doing certain sorts of things that can help facilitate our joint goals to make this connection stronger, more long-lasting, and more effective. And again, one of the ones that I would like to put forward as an organization that we really should be working in tandem with is Sister Cities. So that's it for me. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. That's the thing. You start with one piece of the thread and all of a sudden you find this incredible connection, and it travels through human beings and it travels through relationships. So can't wait to build them further. Prof. Odamaro.
Yes, thank you very much, Robin and team. What was extremely exciting was the convergence of so many ideas. We have been talking about the African Renaissance, and there's a doctor who just asked about the possibility of collaborating between Ubuntu and medicine. It's an area that we can always keep exploring, and the potential to collaborate is enormous. And from Nascent Hekima University, I have seen lots of opportunities for collaboration, and I definitely will use this as a laboratory, as an experiment to begin and create networks and synergy across the continent and beyond, and across HBCUs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. Odamaro. Jewel.
Joel, can you hear us?
Hello.
everyone. I am also excited. I'm sorry that I cannot be visual due to some circumstances, but I'm very, very happy to be a part of this. And I want to say thank you to the organizers who also took upon the time to do this for us. We that are from Liberia, because I'm calling for Liberia, and I see that we are limited when it comes to a lot of things, but I'm so happy and I'm glad that we can connect as Africa and other continents trying to discuss issues that will be contributing and also to developing our various countries. I am so, so excited. And like our leader once said, we have to rewrite our narratives to change our directives. So I am so very, very excited to be joining you, and I hope to also collaborate and also meet with partners in the future for us to better our African country or our Africa at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Prince.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right, cool. My name is Prince. I grew up in the United States. I've been living in Ghana for the last 3 years. And I specifically came to Ghana to actually see what I can do about development. And one thing I definitely noticed was that we're not connected. And when I hear everyone talk here, the word that keeps coming to mind is connections. So it shows me that I'm on the right path. So for the past 3 years, I've been developing, just different platforms, and we've kind of put all the platforms together to a platform that we call Afro Tango. And literally what Afro Tango is doing is we're going to be connecting the diasporans to the continent, to institutions, businesses, and just different resources, because I think that's the first step. Once we start connecting with each other, then we know where our strengths lie. Once we start connecting, then we know what needs to be developed, and we can just progress. So I don't have all the answers, but I do know once we bring the minds together, from that point, then we can start creating solutions. So starting next week, we will be doing beta testing. So if anyone is interested in being a part of this beta testing, and if you want to bring your your organizations and the people you're connected to this beta testing, it'll definitely be great, because then we could find where the bugs are and kind of make everything work smoothly. So now we can actually collaborate, not just in these small pockets, but on a global level and on a bigger platform. So I'll leave my information in the chat. So if anyone is interested, just send me a message and we'll take it from there. Thank you, everybody.
Be very interested, Prince. Okay, I'm talking now for us from Africa Voices Dialogue, but I think also from the consortium of these partners running this dialogue as a whole. So we've been wanting to do this for 3 years now, and we are a tiny little organization. So it's much better to partner. We would love to participate. It's very unfortunate that it's the week I'm going on very long leave to rest. But we would love to be part of your beta phase testing, because when you climb on board early, then you know what, you grow together, and that's what we want to do. So I'll also drop you our mails, and it'd be great to connect around that. And Kimberly, I'm sure you want to add that Kimberly, maybe you should just share a little bit about the EHBCU platform, because super relevant.
Yes, the EHBCU, excuse me, my throat, it goes in and out right now, but the EHBCU platform, it is a technology platform that is pretty much ready to launch in this month of December. We partnered with Alabama State, some private sector technology partners to help build the platform for us to help facilitate program activities, culture exchanges, help capacity build with other HBCUs, and to offer microcredit accreditation certifications, and just it's a depository for grants, and building together with the private sector and coordinating with our government institutions. And so this is an opportunity that is we're going to be happy to share in the new year amongst the network as well, and make sure that we build together, even just through the virtual platform, but allow us to even build furthermore, even when we make connections with the university. We are piloting some projects right now with a couple of universities that have been on this call today. And so as things evolve, we will be sharing this. But I do want to say that the data that we have collected from the surveys when people RSVP'd, and even now we're going to synthesize this data, ensure that everyone has access to it, and build with the network that we have, because that is what we're here to do, is to foster the connections, foster the relationships, to make sure that there's strategic, valuable alignment on how we can actually build sustainably together through trusted, valuable relationships. And so that's something that we hone in on. That's where our gifting lies. And I do also want to say one more thing. Office of HBCU Development and International Cooperation, been inspired by the organization, as it pertains to system goal alignment. There are MOUs that are in place that they put together with UNDP Africa, with USAID, and they're a phenomenal work that they're doing. And I would love to have Dr. Willis speak, if you could. Yes, thank you so much. I'm just thinking about you all, and then Constituency for Africa, how you guys will play a critical role to ensuring that how we mold together, that it all comes in the way that we know it needs to happen, geopolitical wise, as well as the way how we measure success. You are on mute.
Thank you. Very, very slow. Thank you so much. Thank you for the floor briefly. And I did want to just bring greetings from the Office of HBCU Development and International Cooperation. I know you've been corresponding with and are in contact with our chair, Dr. Fareed Mohammed. A number of HBCU universities were OHBCUD partners, forgive me, were represented on the call today. And I just really look forward to us partnering and working together and supporting as much as we can. This initiative and even today's conversation is just so important, very, very important. And we cannot have too many. I saw a couple of the points in the chat about, how does collaboration not be competition? And then there was a response that, let's reframe or rethink how we talk about competition. And maybe we just help ensure that we have some guiding principles, right, that we continue to espouse as this collaboration builds. So just saying thank you. First of all, I did put our website link in the chat earlier for anybody that really wants more information than time allows to share today. But yes, just celebrated the 5th anniversary, actually, of the signing of a historic MOU, which for those who don't know, OHBCUD actually had itself an MOU and linked all of the offices of the presidents across every single historically Black college and university, as well as the PBIs, those that are not, traditional land-based HBCUs, like Medgar Evers, and several others. But the key, I think, is just that we stay in touch, and just to know that, you have our support. And certainly, if as an individual, I serve as senior fellow. I've worn a lot of hats through the evolution of the, going from dream to reality, as you all are doing. So currently serve as senior fellow and one of the professors of record for the summer international distance learning program. And we are just now launching the student exchange component. Previously, the work has been very focused on the leadership of the business deans roundtable. So to the point of many of the things that came out today with regards to the need for focus on, wealth creation and poverty eradication, irrespective of, sustainable development goals. That has been a key focus initially, a leading focus that is continuing to be maintained. And now the initiative that has launched, and we're going to start the exchanges in March in the Caribbean, is urban ag focus. So, with regards to growing and the planet and some of the intersectionality with, observing, researching, writing, and mitigating on the ground the effects of climate on people's lives. And still that ties back to, wealth creation and survivability and all that. So I won't keep going on and on and on. I'm, as everyone else on this call today, extremely passionate about this work. And we wish you well in the specific endeavor and the launches that are happening, and just looking forward to mutual collaboration. And to you all giving one of the presentations at the next year's UN General Assembly, which we host the side events every year to help showcase what HBCU collaborations are doing. So I guess the recording will tell Dr. Fareed that, yeah, she did say that. But it's important. Sharing the information is more important than any one entity or group or collective, trying to do it all. So we don't do that. Peace and blessings, and HBCUs all day, every day. Pan-Africanism, yes, yes, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing. Kimberly, you carry on.
Oh, no, I'm done. I see Jewel, she's got her hand up, or did you mean to put your hand down? You spoke earlier. No, I didn't know if it came back up.
Thank you.
I think we need to give you some rest in your voice as well, Kimberly.
Yes.
Oh, hello, you can see.
But I would love to yield the hello to whoever is sitting in your lap.
I think Kimberly got to rest. She got to rest a little bit.
I will.
I know that.
Jewel, did you want to say something again?
No, not really. I'm just listening.
Great, no problem. Your hand's just up, so I'll lower it for you. And okay, hello, Yakut. So this is our youngest Africa Voices Dialogue member and future HBCU PhD candidate at some slightly later point in her life. Hi, my darling. So guys, thank you so much. I just do want to make a note, since we have so many wonderful academics and academic institutions, what would be really, really helpful for this collaborative is if there is a research student anywhere to be interested to help us with just data coalition, just collating data, helping us to really articulate what is coming through here. We are, all of us in this team, fairly stretched in terms of capacity, and the data management piece is something that would be massively helpful. So if anybody's keen or interested, just let us know. You can drop us a return mail when we send you the follow-up mail. I am going to just suggest that we
play a data management system on Word.
Sorry?
A data management system on Word.
Absolutely. No, this is what I'm saying. Like, guys, we need your help. Okay, so yes, it's all very well.
Okay, so
system.
I'm gonna hit your DM, then we start up the conversation from there.
Fantastic. Okay, that sounds awesome.
Perfect. And Robin, did I hear Mercedes saying that she'd like to connect more and she would like to know more? Maybe this could be a form.
I think my elder is volunteering me that I need to jump on this.
That would be good, Mercedes. We like your voice energy. We like your bright light.
I will do what I can. I am also in the middle of qualifying exams, but I will support where I can, sure.
There's no urgency.
So you have my information in the chat.
Wonderful.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to suggest that we sing ourselves out and play ourselves out, and just say thank you again to everybody for a wonderful, wonderful experience. Kimberly, maybe if I can ask you if we can just quickly recap the next steps because I forgot to push record. And then I'm going to play this beautiful song. It's beautiful. Listen to the words. Please give me a thumbs up if the sound is coming through because I've pushed share sound, but I'm not sure that it is going to. So just I'll watch you, Kimberly, to see if the sound comes through. Okay.
I am seeing these breakouts, I am seeing these blemishes, and I'm impressed.
Don't skip out on a chance to say it with Cadbury PS.
Okay. Hey, there we go. Yeah.
We crossed Zimbabwe's border, flew over the dry fields of my homeland, coming into Joburg, the suntan swimming pools and the Soweto sheds, airports and railway stations, stranded with a ruckback and guitar. The languages and the places change, and the sky has different stars. I may be walking in the streets of a city called London, but the dust on my boots and the rhythm of my feet and my heartbeat say Africa. I may be walking in the streets of a city called I may be walking in the streets of a city called Amsterdam, but the dust on my boots and the rhythm of my feet and my heartbeat say Africa. 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 Sticks and stones than the UN loan and the passport controls for countries that don't exist. It's a big world, they have their own problems, everyone, but there's gold in that clenched fist. People ask me where I'm from, I say Mamelodi Township, in a city called Tshwane, meaning we are the same. I have a friend who's a great musician and is from Ebai, near King Williamstown. You know where Steve Biko was born? You might have read or seen a film about Africa. You know, it's a big continent with the great gift of Ubuntu. I may be walking in the streets of a city called London, by the dust on my boots and the rhythm of my feet and my heartbeat say Africa. I may be walking in the streets of a city called Amsterdam, by the dust on my boots and the rhythm of my feet and my heartbeat say Africa. 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 Doobity doobit could be better, but I've been there. Bambi dooby bambi doo bambi doo dabby dum babby. I may be walking in the streets of a city called Amsterdam, by the dust on my boots and the rhythm of my feet and my heartbeat say Africa. I may be walking in the streets of New York, yeah, by the dust on my boots and the rhythm of my feet and my heartbeat say Africa. Say Africa. Say Africa. Say Africa. Say Africa. Say Africa. Africa. Good mama, good mama. Oh, say Africa. Say Africa. Say Africa. Say Africa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow, wow, what a wonderful
Wow,
song. What
wow. This song.
where you are, stay remain the same. Africa, we are African. No matter where you are in the US, whatsoever place you are, we are African. Your voices speak for you, your body language speaks for you, your structure speaks for you. The doors on your feet say Africa. Oh wow, what a great song.
Samuel, we're waiting for
That
your
was
song.
beautiful. And Samuel, thank you so much. That is beautiful. And that song was magnificent. Beautiful.
Wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you at the next dialogue. It was amazing. We'll
Yes.
send you
We will be
everything
in
we
touch.
have. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not going to be
absolutely.
perfect. It's going to be great. But
Yes. Yes.
Bye, it was nice.
bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Liz. So good to
Reverend, you
see
should
you.
everyone.
share the community chat when you were talking about. You can just share it.
Sorry, Samuel?
The community chat when you were talking about, you can share it so everyone we can just be the part of it.
AVD family. Robin, is someone in our AVD community, AVD family?
Who's this?
Someone wants to.
Yeah, Samuel,
someone.
yes, you are. Samuel, I'm sure you are. I'm sure I sent you the link. Let me give it to you now. I'll put it in.
And also Odomaro, we shall also add you into our group.
Oh, thank you so much.
Anybody who wants to, anybody who wants.
Anyone who wants, you can drop your number here. Anybody who wants, you can drop your number so that you can add it.
Okay, I'm going to put the WhatsApp. This is the WhatsApp chat group. That's like a WhatsApp chat. I'm going to I'm also going to put the mailing list, but because you've RSVP'd to this session, you are on our mailing list unless you unmail yourself, unless you remove yourself. But you should be on that now. But the family group is awesome. It's just so nice. Okay. And yeah, so this conversation is ongoing. The next one will be kind of in March with the Youth Voice. The Africa Voices Dialogue conversations happen about every 6 weeks, and there's lots planned for the coming while. And so looking forward to seeing.
I just feel so inspired. I'm just so inspired. I just thankful for everyone just hung out with us through the end with the song and just the energy. And again, I'd like to call it the anointing that is just pressed on us to see this work through.
Yeah,
I appreciate all the comments, the feedback through the chat, and just our breakout sessions. Everything it was a blessed event. And so just know that it matters to us. And it obviously matters to you. And so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, guys. All right, so
it's so hard to say goodbye. It's so hard to say goodbye.
Kimberly, do you remember us saying at the beginning 3 hours? 3 hours. We need 3 hours. You see, 3 hours.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And now we should all start preparing for an in-person gathering.
Oh yeah, we are. That's you. Well, we are already doing that, but it's just like even more now. I was just happy to with all the HBCUs that was represented, and to think it only started off with just 4, right? But in the African universities, when we put it out there, everybody responded, and so now it's just like, and I'm just grateful that, again, the awakening, the call, just the connection together is coming. So just thankful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So guys, we're going to do a little bit of I made a bit of a mess because I forgot to push record when we came back from our breakaway rooms. So I'm going to ask if Kimberly and I are just going to repeat the next steps so that it's in the recording, so that when we have the recording, we can just add it onto the end so that
I'm recording.
Are you have you got it recorded on your side? No, it's recording now. I forgot to record after we got to the breakaway rooms when we did the next steps, and I only started recording again when Dr. El Malik was busy speaking.
Oh, okay. Does you and I?
No, well, I just want us to repeat the next steps thing so that it goes
Oh,
on
okay.
to the recording. And
Okay.
then Zoe will cut and splice it. And so it'll be quick. So anybody who wants to stay, you're welcome to stay. But just warning you, we're going to be like repeating ourselves now. So I'm going
Oh,
to
thank you, Robin. We'll see you soon.
Bye
thank you,
bye.
thank you.
Bye,
Cheers,
everyone.
guys. Bye. Okay. All right. I have to escape this quickly. Here we go. Okay. All right. So, yeah, so just as we came back from the breakaway rooms, we have been sharing in the chat that what we're really eager to do is take all of the knowledge that came through from our RSVP forms, all of the incredible knowledge coming through from the chat room, from this conversation, and we'd love to create an open access available resource that anybody can add their thoughts into. It's generous, it's flow-based, it's relational. What we really want to do is create space for people to connect. So please just take a pic of the QR code, open up the form. It's not very fancy. Add in details. And what we will do is we'll start to create a database of what opportunities exist for connections between the HBCUs and African universities across African universities and other African universities, and really all the opportunities to support Africanization and strengthening of African education opportunities and strengthening of these connections and bonds. So lots of encouragement just to do that. And then in terms of our next steps, we do have next steps. So this was the first event in what we are really hoping is a growing, deepening, strengthening relationship, and the opportunity to really start on a journey together that takes us a very long way. So in terms of our immediate next steps, we're planning a summit, at least we're planning a similar dialogue to this, which will take place probably at the end of March. And we really want to focus now on student and youth voice and getting their thoughts and their experiences and what they feel about this potential collaboration or the existing collaborations between HBCUs and African universities, and bringing them into this conversation so that we grow the scope and scale and potential of what's being born here. And Kimberly, then I'll hand over to you just to quickly share with us a little bit about the summit that we're planning.
Yes, so we are going to continue to carry out, like Robin said, virtual session, but following that, we are hoping to host our in-person summit on May the 26th through the 30th in Africa. We will pretty much, we have a couple of options to consider. We will finalize whether if that's going to be in Nairobi, Kenya, or Johannesburg. We are making a determination based off of the resource response and how we should go about that effort. And we should have that finalized soon, but we will be sending out some detail regarding that. But this is just to reiterate that this is just not going to be a discussion. We are very intentional about wanting to carry out, this exchange opportunity that we're doing through ideas and strategies for long-term cooperation. And we want to make sure that during our in-person summit, we're able to cultivate a path from where we started today that will allow us to share research and collaboration. It'll allow us to cultivate faculty and student exchange programs and joint research projects in which various members here today spoke about, and then ensuring that we co-author publications, and there's an opportunity for presentations to be made, workshops to be held, and we want to capacity build and make sure that we create a system goal alignment with professional development, our department, ministries, departments, agencies, and set forth a path for institutionalizing our work for sustainability. And we can leverage our resources through grant programs and make sure that this is something that we can make happen annually, so that we can not only boost what we're doing with our educational system, but also with our community. So that is our plan. And just again, thank you for being a part of us being able to lay the groundwork for all of this. And we'll look forward to being in touch with you. We are going to synthesize the data that we have captured through those that have RSVP'd and also through the session that we have held on today. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then just if anybody is keen to find out a little bit more, you're welcome to scan the QR code to make either of them the mailing list for all of our future Africa Voices Dialogue events and for the ongoing events for this consortium of HBCU, bridging the HBCU and African academic spaces. So that will get you onto our mailing list. If you're keen to be a little bit more intimate and chat a little bit further with this community, join our WhatsApp group. And then you're welcome, obviously, to go and check out the websites of all of these different organizations and see what's happening in them. We'd love to remain connected with you all. So thank you, and wishing us a wonderful, wonderful evening, week, and rest of this year, and a very good break. Cheers. Okay. Thank you. Let me stop there.